October 15th, we got a huge card coming up. And one of the big fights we got on there is Caleb Plant versus Anthony Dirrell. Now look, this may not be the one that catches the most press, may not be the one that catches the most show, may not be the biggest fight on the card, may not be the biggest fight of the night. Let's not forget, it's not just this card going on. We also got Devin Haney and George Kambosos fighting on that same night over in Australia. Nevertheless, this is the return of Caleb Plant, right? First time we're seeing him back since he fought with Canelo. And that was his first loss. Going into that, he was an undefeated fighter. Canelo hands him that first loss, takes some time off, ends up having a child. I believe it was a little girl with his wife. Congratulations, by the way, to Caleb Plant and his wife for that. But now we get to see him come back. Seeing him come back against Anthony Dirrell. Now, this is an interesting fight, right? We got Anthony Dirrell, former champion, two-time champion. Didn't get any title defenses, but won that belt twice. Nevertheless, it's easy to say that. It's easy to put him up on this pedestal because we say former world champion. And we got a lot of respect for what guy when he goes out there and he wins that world title. But if we're being completely honest with ourselves, I got to say two things. Number one, I don't think Anthony Dirrell, even though he won that title twice, was ever the best man in the world at 168 pounds. Okay? Let me just say this. Think about this, for example. Let's say you took the belts out of it. Let's say we're not talking about belts at all. Belts don't exist. That's not really there. All we have is a group of guys who fight at these different weight classes, right? But we're talking about 168 pounds. So you got a group of guys, 5, 10, 15, 100,000 guys, doesn't matter. Group of men fight at that weight class. We watch them all, we observe it, we see all the fights, we talk about it back and forth and everything, and then you're asked, who do you think is the best fighter? There can only be one answer. You can only say one guy, and everybody puts their vote in. I don't think Anthony Dirrell was ever that guy. I don't think we ever looked at 168 pounds and said, that's the man. He's beating anybody else on 168, right? I just don't think that was the case. He won a belt because there's multiple belts in the division, a little bit watered down in that regard. Very good fighter. Competed amongst the best in the world, top notch. When he was at his prime, past his prime now, right? I think he's 37, 38 years old, past his prime now, right? Definitely on that downside. But when he was at his best, when he was at his prime, he could compete amongst the best. Now, he's, gatekeeper / journeyman status. That's the point he's at in his career now. Okay? Caleb Plant isn't. Caleb Plant's on a completely different trajectory. He's still on the way up. He's either at the top and plateaued, or he's still on the way up, depending on what you think he's got left in him. But remember, going into that fight with Canelo, the story about Caleb Plant was different. He was a guy who passed the eye test, right? Incredibly fast hands, really good footwork, slick, high ring IQ, knows how to fight. We doubted his power a little bit. Didn't really know what kind of pop he had. Like, definitely he had some pop. He wasn't out there with one of these guys that you think he couldn't bust an egg. But at the same time, he wasn't going out there and just smoking guys with incredible power. He was no Triple G. But one of the things is we doubted his resume. We looked and we said, hey, this guy doesn't have a world-class resume. So what he's done is very impressive, and what he's done has passed the eye test, and what he does looks good, but we haven't been able to see him do those things against the best in the world. And everybody knows that you can look very good against underwhelming competition, but when you go in there and you step up against a real, true world-class fighter, things are different. And whether or not you got the goods is going to come out at that time. Then we saw him going there against Canelo. One of the pound-for-pound past, a guy who's got an awesome resume, a guy who's been in there against all kinds of people, just blowing people out the water. Remember, this was before the loss to Bivol. So goes in there, Caleb Plant. And Caleb Plant looked good, man. Caleb Plant looked good. He did what he wanted to do at times. He was able to control distance. He was able to control range. He was able to land his jab. He was able to get the right hand in. He was able to avoid a lot of shots and look defensive. He was able to fight off of the ropes at times, pivot, circle out, get back to the middle of the ring. Yeah, he got caught with some big shots, and yeah, he got stopped. He was a big underdog going into that fight, and everybody knew why. I picked Canelo to win along with the majority of other people. But in a way, Caleb Plant won. Remember that 9th round, 10th round, he was bouncing around, and he actually sought validation from Canelo. He's like, look, man, do you think I'm looking good out here? Do you think I'm a solid fighter? Right? He was seeking validation, man. His whole life, you listen to this dude, this guy's been doubted. This guy's been looked down upon. Ever since he was an amateur, he was dismissed at tournaments and things like that. I get it. And up until this day, in the biggest fight of his life, in there with a guy for 8-9 rounds, still looking for a little bit of validation, looking to understand and hope that all the hard work that he's put in has paid off. And it has. Everything he's done has passed the test. And when you go in there and you're able to look good even in spots against a guy like Canelo, it's incredibly telling. And then he takes it one step further. He goes out after the fight with Canelo, picks up a new trainer. Still with his pops, still working with him. Didn't dismiss him, no bad blood there. But Brings says, hey, I've been in there with a guy who's the top of the food chain at 168 pounds, and he probably realized that if I ever want to get to that level, if I want to be able to beat a man like Canelo, I'm going to have to add some new wrinkles to my game. I'm going to have to do something in the future that I'm not doing right now, right? The future needs to be different than the past. It means I'm going to have to do different things to bring about that different result. So he goes out and he picks up Stephen Edwards, right? Stephen Breadman Edwards, right? Had some world champions in the past. Not the most popular trainer. A lot of people outside, the hardcore boxing circles probably have never heard that name. But that doesn't mean that the man isn't incredibly skilled. So I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of new nuances and new wrinkles we get from Plant. Right? How he looks a little bit different when he's coming out here after not only the layoff, but working with a new trainer, the experience of being in there with a guy like Canelo. It should be good. Right? And I think he's got a prime opportunity to showcase that against Dirrell. Right? I mean, I like Dirrell. Seems cool enough. Been around the sport forever. Gave his all and brought it, but I just think he's going to be in a little bit over his head on this one, right? He's a guy who he's a little bit unorthodox. He's crafty. He's got a good ring IQ. He tries to find out ways to get his shots off. Tries to be a counterpuncher. He'll fight off the back foot. He'll try to come forward a little bit and wait and try to time you and get in good opportunities that way. Because he's not the most athletic. He doesn't have the fastest hands. He doesn't work behind the jab to try to create opportunities that way. That's not his game. And as he gets older, he just kind of falls in more and more into that style. And I don't think those opportunities are going to be there with Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant's a much better athlete with faster hands and better footwork. He knows what Dirrell's going to do. I think part of the build-up to this fight, the way Dirrell's trying to talk to him, the way Dirrell's dismissing him, possibly being disrespectful, calling him saying that, he got slapped by another man and all those things. I think he's trying to get under Plant's skin because he knows that he needs Plant to be overly aggressive. He needs Plant to kind of come out of his character a little bit. He needs him to make a mistake so that he can capitalize on it. Like Dirrell's got some punch, a little bit of pop in that punch. So if he connects, he can do some damage, right? If he connects, he can go out there and make something happen. But I don't even think he's going to land clean, man. Plant is slick. He's younger. He's faster, incredibly motivated. I think this is a glorified tune-up fight in a lot of ways, right? Everybody knows what a tune-up fight is. I think the fight that everybody is looking at, the one that's been talked about, the bigger one that they're building towards, is a fight between Caleb Plant and David Benavidez. That's the fight that we're going to see in the future, possibly first quarter 2023, maybe the summer 23, something along those lines. That's the fight that's getting built up. This is a stay busy fight. This is a fight that Plant gets to work with his new trainer and see how that goes, possibly implement something that he's going to use in that fight with David Benavidez. But it's also a big name guy. You're not out there fighting a tomato can. You're not out there fighting some, bus driver or something like that. Everybody knows the name Anthony Dirrell, so everybody knows that when you fight this, you're still going to get some respect in that regard. But it's also just a tune-up fight, not really dangerous, not worried about some freak upset derailing your future plans and your bigger payday with David Benavidez down the road. So let me know what you guys think. I think Caleb Plant walks away with the victory in this one. Looks incredibly impressive, like 10 rounds to 2, man. So am I underestimating what Dirrell brings to the table? Am I overestimating what Plant's going to bring to the table? Was it just a stylistic matchup on why he looked good with Canelo? And maybe the timing that Dirrell brings to the table is going to be able to make a difference here? Let me know what you guys think.